Did you walk alone to the Black Rose, or did you go with anyone?
So I was also with a colleague of ours. I woke up at about 2 a.m. to a call. I didn't think much of it, in part because I thought it could have been a butt dial. These were 3 texts that I received.
Were you able to get in touch with later that morning?
You yourself were not in room 610 of the Omni Parker Hotel on March 14th, were you?
No.
So you cannot say what happened in that room because you weren't there.
A rape accuser's colleague testifies at trial against Irish firefighter Terence Crosbie. The Commonwealth is expected to rest its case today, so we're asking, have they done enough? And a Texas couple arrested after allegedly ditching their 6-month-old baby on a Florida beach. This is the story that has everyone talking. Also this hour, an investigation into Prince Andrew ahead of a bombshell book release. Police are now looking into allegations that he pressured an officer to dig up information about accuser Virginia Giuffre. Plus, killer Kohberger refusing to pay up, the convicted killer fighting compensation for the victims' families. It's all coming up next for you right here on Opening Statements. Good Tuesday morning to you. Welcome to Opening Statements. I'm Julie Grant. Are you ready for some coffee and some court? It's that time where we get all warmed up together and get ready for the big day ahead on Court TV Live. We got a great show planned. Let's get started. Grab that cup of coffee or tea, or if you're across the pond and it's lunchtime for you, whatever you're having, it's time for my opening statement. A massacre was averted. Thank goodness. And the people who helped save countless lives on Monday deserve to be commended today. Police say 49-year-old Billy Cagle planned to carry out a mass shooting at Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport in Atlanta. Thank goodness that Mr. Cagle's family called the Cartersville, Georgia Police Department as soon as they saw what Cagle was reportedly streaming on social media. They not only alerted the police, but they also provided them with his photo. Bravo. This family deserves to be commended for saying something and helping save who knows how many lives. Cartersville police then alerted the Atlanta police, and then within 15 minutes of getting that alert, listen to how impressive this is. Within 15 minutes, they apprehended the guy in that airport before anybody could get hurt. That is great collaborative police work. And by the way, Atlanta is the busiest airport in the world. So bravo. Those officers deserve to be commended for saving all those lives. What's more, Mr. Cagle's a convicted felon, so he shouldn't have even had a gun in the first place. But police located his truck, which, by the way, he pulled right up to the doors, they say, of the South Terminal. And inside of that truck, they found an AR-15 with 27 rounds of ammunition. Thank goodness for all the quick action by the family and by the police. I appreciate you and I commend you. That's my opening statement this morning. Let me know if you like it. Right now, it's time for your daily docket.
What did I tell them?
What did you tell them?
Exactly that I had received information from my wife that Dustin had shot Caitlin.
Did that information include why?
No.
In New Hampshire, we have got the Amber Alert murder trial for defendant Dustin Duran. It resumes today. This guy's accused of killing the mother of his 2 daughters and then taking the children they share. Now, after being captured, he claimed that the shooting was done in self-defense. So we'll see what happens when court gets underway. 9 a.m. Eastern time, we'll go in there live. In Florida, it's day number 2 of jury selection in the murder trial for defendant Alicia Andrews. She's accused of the ambush shooting of rapper Julio Fulio. Andrews is one of 5 suspects charged. In Massachusetts, we've got the Commonwealth expected to wrap its case today in the Irish firefighter rape trial for defendant Terence Crosbie. And that is our top story this morning. So our question we're asking, has the Commonwealth done enough to prove the case? The accuser's colleague took the stand Monday, testifying about the hours before the alleged assault, where the accuser And he attended a work event and then went to the Black Rose bar afterwards. The accuser's colleague said after he left the bar, he woke up around 2 a.m. to a call from the accuser. Here's his testimony on both direct and then cross.
I woke up to the call. Yeah, I did see it was from. I didn't think much of it, in part because I thought it could have been a butt dial. I thought it could have been anything, but again, I also just wasn't thinking much. I was half asleep, and as I said, it was a hectic week. Just got back from a trip, a lot of things going on, and I'm not the best sleeper to begin with. So yeah, again, I saw it, turned it off, and went back to sleep.
And you yourself were not in room 610 of the Omni Parker Hotel on March 14th, were you?
No.
So you cannot say what happened in that room because you weren't there.
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
The defense case is expected to begin this afternoon, and we could see the defendant on the stand today. The jury's heard from 9 witnesses so far, including the accuser. They also heard from nurses who treated her at the hospital and detectives and her colleague, as we just shared. So has the Commonwealth done enough to prove its case? Let's talk about 2 people who've served. Let's talk about it with 2 people, rather, who've served as prosecuting attorneys. Let's bring them now. One of them's in Massachusetts. Rick Grundy, he was a boss in the Norfolk County DA's office and the AG's office in Massachusetts. Rick, good morning to you. And Matt Timpanik, former prosecutor, now criminal defense attorney in Florida. Great to see you both. All right, Rick, you're in Massachusetts. I want to start with you, please. Has the Commonwealth done enough in your view?
So these are difficult cases. You know, rape cases in general can be difficult. The use of forensics is kind of isolated to certain types of cases. Normally, if you have a more vicious rape where there's injuries, that tends to obviously support the claim of rape. As far as the forensics are concerned, they play a great part if it's a stranger rape, a non-identified individual, obviously. But in a situation like this, normally, it comes down to your victim and how well your victim testifies, and then you look for those little pieces that you can corroborate their testimony with. In this situation, and in most situations of this nature, the forensics, the traditional forensics, DNA testing, can be of limited help because the defense goes from it wasn't me to consent if they find his DNA. Here, we have a little bit of help, I think, from the DNA because it corroborates a portion of her story because they find 2 male DNA samples, which, again, is in line with her story. It seems that the defense is going to be that he wasn't even there and that her intoxication caused her to somehow come up with this story. Oftentimes, when you are relying just on this victim's testimony and what they'll call a fresh complaint witness, the nurse, the doctor who examined her, if that doesn't come up with a whole lot, I think what plays a large part for the prosecution, and it can be difficult for the defense, is why would a person put themselves through this cross-examination, through this trial, if in fact this is not the truth? And that's the hurdle I think this defense has to get over.
Yeah, exactly. Rick, great question. I have a clip from the accuser. Let's take a listen to some of what she shared.
I woke up to somebody on top of me, inside of me, and his penis in my vagina, on top of me, telling me, you like this, he couldn't give this to you, I'll give it to you, he's a loser. I was focusing on getting out. I was focusing on getting to safety.
Matt Timpanik, I want to ask you the same question I asked Rick Grundy. Do you think the Commonwealth has done enough to prove this case and these accusers' allegations?
This is a really tough case because in these types of situations, it is what comes down to whether it's, all right, the defense says it didn't happen or becomes consent. So hearing those words from the alleged victim, those are very, very, very powerful because when you hear that, it's like he didn't give you what you were seeking. So it kind of corroborates that story that there were 2 individuals involved in this. And based on the hysteria of what she was saying, you could almost see that she felt like she was back in that moment. And that was a very powerful thing for the jury to hear. Remember, the first trial ended in a mistrial, which means some of the individuals on the jury wanted to convict and some wanted to quit. However, which way, we don't know. But when you hear that, this jury is thinking, it's like trying to put the pieces together about this case. And when they hear that particular testimony, as well as the DNA, it makes it a stronger circumstantial case. But as always with these types of cases, if a defendant takes the stand, that's usually where a case is won and lost.
Right, and that could happen today. So let's talk about it. He could get up there as early as this afternoon if the Commonwealth rests this morning. Rick, is this the kind of case when you're a prosecutor, if you're struggling a little bit in your case in chief, are you just kind of salivating to get to the point where you can take a crack at the guy you believe did the crime on the stand in front of that jury?
Yeah, you may vacillate a little bit, but absolutely, you're thinking this is where I'm going to make my hay. And I think most experienced prosecutors will tell you that defense attorneys don't normally put their clients on the stand, and they're great attorneys, but they may not be the best at preparing witnesses for testimony as opposed to tearing apart testimony. And usually you can get at a defendant pretty quickly.
Definitely. Matt Timpanik, tell me a little bit about what you're thinking of going after this guy for on the cross. If you're one of the prosecutors, what are some of the things you would really hammer home when you get the chance to question him?
What is important on the stand is a defendant who's not telling a coherent story, that is not telling the truth, is going to say things that are inconsistent. If he, when he's asking questions, like, okay, you need to lock him into a story and make him try to potentially trip up on the easiest of things that any individual would be able to know. And if the story's not making sense, you need to be able to find that and hammer that quickly. Additionally, when a defense attorney is preparing his witness to take for his defendant to take the stand, they need to ask the minimal amount of questions. Many defense attorneys aren't good at cross-examination. At direct examination. They're used to cross, but many criminal defense attorneys who are former prosecutors are able to properly prepare their witness for the stand because they had to cross and prepare witnesses. So when you're doing that, you want to limit the number of exposure and the number of questions that are going to be asked, because what is okay, what is fair game on cross-examination are the questions that are asked on direct examination. So if you're the defense attorney, you ask the minimal amount of questions to make sure he gets his point across to get his story across as well.
Really great points from you both on this. We'll see what happens today when this trial resumes in our next hour. Matt Timpanik, Rick Grundy, thanks for being here. Stand by, please. We'll hit a break. When we come back, here's what's coming up.
He has been evading and avoiding giving his statements about what he knew. He was a very close friend of both Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell.
Prince Andrew back under the microscope. This morning, we're spotlighting the investigation into the royal after he allegedly asked someone to dig up dirt on accuser Virginia Giuffre. And a 6-month-old allegedly left alone on a Florida beach. The parents now facing charges. That's next.
I'm going to ask you a lot of intensely personal questions. How do you explain it? The worst crime anyone can imagine. Do you feel like you took the fall for this murder? Tell me in your own words, what happened? Let's get started.
Interview with a Killer. New season premieres Saturday at 8 Eastern and Pacific, only on Court TV.
Welcome back. Texas parents arrested for leaving their 6-month-old baby alone on a popular beach. This after claiming that they just lost track of time while they went for a walk. Officers responded to Miramar Beach in Florida after reports of an unattended infant Last Friday, witnesses told police the baby was left alone while the parents were wandering around the beach with their other kids. According to the Walton County Sheriff's Office, Sarah and Brian Wilkes allegedly left their baby underneath a tent for about an hour. Police say the couple admitted to placing the baby under the tent to take a nap before leaving with their other 3 kids for that walk. First responders confirmed the baby, seen here in a photo taken on the beach, was not in distress and the vitals, thank God, were normal. DCF did take the child into custody pending the arrival of the family members traveling in from Texas. Now, Brian and Sarah Wilkes are now defendants. They were arrested, charged with child neglect without great bodily harm. They were both released on $1,000 bond the following day. So this morning we're wondering, how does this happen? Let's bring in retired FBI Special Agent Jennifer Coffin-Deffer and private investigator with Black Ops Private Investigators Manuel Gomez. Good morning to you both. Manuel, would you start us off, please? How's this happen?
It's just mind-blowing. First, I want to say that person that found the baby was a hero. And thank God for people like that pay attention to, children that are left alone. That child was in a tent, all right? And some of those temperatures in those tents, believe it or not, can get up to 100 degrees. So the fact you left that child alone, it blows my mind that they were only charged with felony in the 3rd degree for child neglect. No, they should have been charged as well as felony on the 3rd degree and child abandonment. That child was abandoned for an hour. There is no excuse for leaving a child. And the company that she works for, that she's the regional president of, I'm sorry, they need to rethink about who represents the image of healthcare. And it's not that mother, Sarah.
Jen, to you next, please. How in the world does this occur?
Well, I would wager that alcohol is somehow involved here. I mean, the lack of judgment in this situation is just unbelievable. I agree with Manuel on this. First of all, we've also seen this in other situations where you have an otherwise sort of normal individuals abandon their children in cars. They go into places, oh, I just went into the restaurant for an hour. I thought they'd be okay, and they end up dying. We had a recent situation with somebody who left their infant on a boat, and I believe that baby passed away. So in these situations, it's just a total lack of judgment.
Really is. Manuel, we talk a lot on this show, and Jen, you as well. We ask you both for safety tips often, and Manuel, you especially. And the thought that occurred to me, of course, like you said, the Samaritan, thank God for her that she noticed the baby and alerted authorities. But weren't these parents afraid of kidnapping? Like, I mean, I can't imagine taking eyes off a 6-month-old baby and going for a walk, who knows how far away, and not worrying about your innocent child being kidnapped. Manuel, I'd love you to weigh in on that, please.
Well, clearly they did not care about kidnapping. Think about it. And like Jennifer said, I believe alcohol was involved in this. They had no common sense. And again, it's unconscionable. I don't know a mother that would leave their baby on a beach alone for an hour. I don't know any mother like that. I mean, you would keep that baby stuck to your hip, strapped to your chest, and even if the baby was sleeping, passed out, the baby would be with you. The fact that they did this, it just shows their cavalier attitude. And the other thing that I find insulting in this case is you give $1,000 bail? Come on, Julie. What kind of message are we sending to the public that she got out on $100? Because you and I both know you only got to pay 10% of the bail. That bail should have been at least $20,000 or $30,000, because this was a felony, and this needs to be sent a clear message. This type of behavior we don't tolerate in America.
Manuel for magistrate. I couldn't agree with you more. Those magistrate judges need to pay attention to the bail they're saying. You are right. You are absolutely right. Because where are they going home to? To the other kids. What else may happen? What else? I couldn't agree with you more, my friend. Let's switch gears and turn to another story. This is another child case. This one a bit different, though, with the facts. The FBI now involved in the search of missing 9-year-old Melody Buzzard. This is authorities say that her mom isn't cooperating. The search for Melody is going into week number 2 today after a school administrator reported the child's prolonged absence. Investigators say that this beautiful girl hasn't been seen since August, while her aunt tells USA Today that she hasn't seen Melody in over 4 years. Here's a portion of the statement released by the Santa Barbara Sheriff's Office Monday saying, quote, "At this point in the investigation, Ashley Buzzard remains uncooperative and has not provided detectives with any information about Melody's current location or condition. The primary goal of this investigation is to verify the location and the welfare of Melody Buzzard and to ensure that she is safe." So let's talk about how investigators find Melody. Agent Koffendeffer, our team has you to thank for flagging this story. We saw it on your Twitter. You do such a great job of profiling these cases with missing kids, and now we see the FBI's joined in the search. This is getting really big. Talk to me here. What needs to happen in your view, please?
Well, first of all, one of the biggest things is exactly what Court TV is doing right now, and that is keeping her face out there for the public, because I believe it's going to take public tips to find out whether she's even been seen. I saw a recent update this morning that on October 7th, she's actually been seen out of county. They believe she could be as far as Nebraska by this point. And this is critical for people. If you see something, you must say something, because that is probably how Melody is going to be found.
Wow, I really appreciate that, Jen. Manuel, I want to go to you here. Tell us what you would like to see happening in the search for this precious girl.
I'm shocked that the police department is not utilizing Child Protective Services. Child Protective Services can force the mother to produce that child, can even get a warrant to do that. Now, if the Sheriff's Department can't do it, Child Protective Services, that agency has the power to do that. Why hasn't that been utilized? I don't know. And finally, there are no standardized regulations regarding homeschooling. Okay, across the United States, there is none. We need to have a United States standardized regulation. Number one, they must mandatorily check in with the teacher for 30 minutes, FaceTime, once a week. Number two, FaceTime meeting face-to-face once a month with a teacher, so we can assure that educational standards are being met and that the child's welfare is okay. Unfortunately, nowhere in the United States do we have a standardized regulation regarding homeschool, and this is why thousands of kids go missing. Child Protective Services needs to intervene into this case.
Oh, that's a great, really great point you're raising here, Manuel. Let's dovetail off of that. Jen, I saw in one of the posts you put up on your Twitter account about how this case reminds you of Harmony Montgomery's case, which, as you both know, we talk about a lot on this show, and we have for years, and we'll continue to remember this precious angel. She is a great example of being failed by literally everyone in her life, and especially the Department of Children and Family Services. Jen, what are some of the things that remind you of Harmony's case when you analyze Melody Buzzard's case?
Well, when you look at this, especially early on, Julie, no one knew how long she had been gone. Law enforcement is now doing a great job using the FBI, getting them involved because jurisdiction apparently has been changing, which makes it very difficult on the local jurisdiction to keep track of this case. With the FBI involved now, finally we have some answers as to her being seen at least twice, once in August and once in October. But it reminded me so much of this case because no one knew the last time she had been seen. And I love Manuel's point about homeschooling. So often homeschooling is used to actually keep the children and the crimes committed against them hidden, because no longer are they in school where people can see bruises and broken arms and things. So there does need to be a standardization and, remain extremely concerned about her.
Yes, you're both bringing up such great points. It really seems we need reformation there for sure. And in the meantime, as you said, Jen, hopefully everyone will keep sharing her picture and talking about her case. I know we will. You two are awesome. Jen Koffendeffer, Manuel Gomez, thank you both so much. We'll see you soon. Still ahead here on Opening Statements. Here's what's coming up.
Defendant entered the residence, went to the third floor, and with a knife, killed Madison Mogan and Caitlin Gonzalez. He encountered Xana and he ended up killing her also with a large knife. Ethan Chapin, Xana's boyfriend, was asleep in their bedroom, in her bedroom, and the defendant killed him as well.
Killer Kohberger fighting victim compensation, why he says he shouldn't have to pay the victims' families. But first, we're shining the spotlight on Prince Andrew in the investigation he is now under, days after losing his royal titles.
What do you make of Prince Andrew's denials? Can you comment on that? You said you won't be silenced. He has been outspoken.
He knows what he's done, and he can attest to that. So
Can you repeat that? We can't hear you. Step up.
he knows exactly what he's done, and I hope he comes clean about it.
Virginia Giuffre's sexual abuse allegations against Prince Andrew are back in the spotlight this morning on the same day that her posthumous memoir goes on sale. Prince Andrew is finding himself at the center of a police investigation this morning as London police are looking into whether the prince asked an officer who was assigned to him as a bodyguard to dig up dirt on Giuffre. Prince Andrew has denied the allegations that he had sex with Giuffre, who was allegedly trafficked by Jeffrey Epstein. She was 17 years old at the time of the incidents in question. Andrew has said that he has no memory of ever meeting Giuffre, despite this photo you see here showing them together. But her new book tells a different story. Giuffre claims to have had sex with the prince 3 times, the first time in 2001 in London, then in New York, and then at Epstein's private island. Let's talk about all of this. Let's bring in entertainment reporter and royal expert Kinsey Schofield and the former state attorney in Palm Beach County, Florida. He's in private practice now, Dave Ehrenberg. Good morning to you both. Kinsey, I'll start with you, please. What can you tell us about this investigation into the prince?
Well, there are multiple UK laws that might apply here involving unlawfully obtaining or disclosing personal data. These offenses are recordable, meaning they can produce a criminal record on conviction, and the penalties can be significant. Depending on the offense proved, possible punishments include a fine, potentially unlimited for offenses under DPA for obtaining or disclosing personal data without consent, a criminal record if convicted of the data offense. In more serious related offenses like unauthorized access or aiding wrongdoing, a prison sentence could apply. That could be 2 years or more. So, you know, we have to stress that he's not been found guilty of any crime, but if they do determine that what he did was illegal, you know, he could be in a lot of trouble. What I will say is the article that revealed this said that there was no suggestion that the officer actually acted on the alleged request.
Kinsey, that's helpful. Thank you. Jeffrey Epstein's name continues to come back into the headlines again, you know, in this case. And Dave, as you know, he's got a history in Palm Beach County, and not a good history, as we know. Would love for you to weigh in on the latest trouble that his friend Prince Andrew may be in now.
Julie, good to be with you. Virginia Giuffre was the leading spokesperson for the victims, and there were many in this matter, but she committed suicide not too long ago. And the book that she recently published, or it will be published, comes from her horrific past, where a lot of people didn't know the things that she went through before she ever met Jeffrey Epstein and then after. So it's a major tragedy. And I'm not sure if this is going to move the needle when it comes to the investigation going on, but I think it does keep the conversation going and will pressure the Trump administration to release the Epstein files. Will that ever happen? I don't know. But she continues to speak up even after she's gone. And I think that's really important because these victims have unfortunately been pushed aside in all of this. They feel like they've been called a hoax. They feel like they've been neglected with all the subpoenas that have gone out to have people come before the congressional committee to discuss what happened. Not one has gone to a victim. So that's why this book is important. That's why her voice is important. And Prince Andrew has not received any criminal sanction for what he allegedly did, but perhaps that day, one day, could come.
Dave, great points. Kinsey, let me go to you on the last thing Dave said. So, Prince Andrew, we know that he did lose his titles after admitting that he remained friends with Epstein longer than he previously had said he remained friends with Epstein. We've got a couple emails here. We're going to put them on your screen here, emails that the prince had sent to Jeffrey Epstein. I said, look, because of what's happened, I don't think it's appropriate that we should remain in contact. And by mutual agreement, during that walk in the park, we decided to part company and I left. I think it was the next day. And to this day, I never had any contact with him from that day forward. So that was in 2010. Then 2011, we see he says in an email, quote, "It would seem that we are in this together and we will have to rise above it." Both newspapers reporting that Andrew, having written this to his pal Jeffrey Epstein, he said to have ended the email saying, quote, "Otherwise, keep in close touch and we'll play some more soon." Kinsey, it can be confusing for those of us who are unfamiliar with the royals and perhaps how things go with titles and stripping. So we still call him Prince Andrew. That's a birthright, right? He'll always be Prince Andrew. But what exactly was stripped from him? Would you explain, please?
Well, I mean, this is what is the most disappointing point. If you are looking for any sort of accountability whatsoever, yes, he remains a prince by birth and has not been legally stripped of his Duke of York title by Parliament. You know, these are titles and honors that he just simply is no longer going to use himself. And he says that, you know, maybe the media doesn't have to use them as well. I'll be honest with you, this looks a little theatrical. It looks as if this is just, you know, the palace trying to stop the bleed. But I also, in regards to negative press, but I also wonder if it's a recognized tier system. And are they anticipating worse information coming out between the book, between the Epstein files? And this way, they nip the story in the bud temporarily. And if things progressively get worse, they can go through Parliament to legally strip him of those titles. That way, they keep the anger at bay. And, you know, there are going to be different levels of upset and anger as this story continues to evolve. So perhaps this is just step one. But if you're really looking for accountability here, you know, I'm sorry, you're not going to find it. Prince Andrew still possesses a mansion that's paid for by taxpayers, a title in law, and a glittering season of sport, as some would say. He's, you know, already planning his shooting weekends at Windsor. So there are a lot of people that are disappointed by the palace's reaction and ultimately hoping that a King William would push Andrew into exile.
Wow. Kinsey, you are so knowledgeable. This is fascinating insight you're giving us here. Dave Ehrenberg, want to go to something legal here that happened in the States. We know when Virginia Giuffre sued Prince Andrew, this was a case that some of us wondered, is this going to go in New York in federal court? And we were thinking, gosh, could we see this actually happen and a trial play out? But there was an out-of-court settlement that was reached, undisclosed settlement amount, so we don't know. There was no admission of liability either from Prince Andrew. No apology. He just expressed his regret for his association with Jeffrey Epstein. Now that Virginia Giuffre is deceased, and as you pointed out so sadly by suicide at the age of 41, I think many people are wondering, will we ever really find out what happened with them? I would love for you to weigh in, please, Dave.
It's a tough one, Julie, because Virginia Giuffre's gone, and as far as what happened between them, you know, Virginia Giuffre deserves all the sympathy that we can give her. At the same time, she has made claims in the past that have been contradicted, that have been taken back. She made claims against Alan Dershowitz. He sued her for defamation. She then retracted her claims. She was not called as a witness in the Ghislaine Maxwell trial because prosecutors apparently did not find her to be credible enough to put her on the stand. So I say this just to say that I don't know if we're ever going to get to the truth here, but her claims against Prince Andrew to me seem credible because there is a picture, the picture you showed on the screen. Now, Prince Andrew and Ghislaine Maxwell, they all say that that picture was fabricated. It just seems that I wonder why she would make up all this stuff and have this picture just to be a hoax. It does seem like what she's saying here, that there is at least some credibility in this. Now, as far as whether we will know the truth, I don't know. I don't know if there are any other witnesses or anyone else could testify. We know Ghislaine Maxwell is not going to say anything. She denies she ever did anything wrong in any place at any time. So I think these are questions, unfortunately, that are taken to the grave.
Yes, Dave, excellent insight. I think you're exactly right. Sadly, I don't think we're ever going to see those answers either. Kinsey, would love to ask you, please, what else do you think is important to know about this case? As you're someone really with so much expertise about the Royals, and here we're hearing, the bits and pieces about, did he ask this police officer to do this digging? And if so, what could that mean? What else are you thinking about this morning that you think is important for all of the viewers, both in America and across the pond, to understand?
Well, just to also kind of hijack your last question, I do wonder if we could get more details about what took place. Would Prince Andrew, would Fergie, who is his ex-wife, who continues to live with him, Sarah Ferguson, she was going by Duchess of York. Now she no longer is able to go by that title either. Would they be so desperate that they would write books? I think that that's been heavy on the king's heart, King Charles, and one of the reasons why he hasn't completely cut his brother off is I think that there's fear there. Look at what Prince Harry and Meghan Markle have done over the last 5 years, reality television shows, a book that went into royal secrets. So I wonder if we could get closer. Would he use this book as a vehicle to try to redeem himself, perhaps, or perhaps he doesn't get enough of a payday unless he does reveal that he had some sort of relationship with her. I think that that's ultimately what the palace is fearful of, and perhaps why they're not cutting him off at the knees.
Oh, really great insight. We've got to leave it there for now, but we'll continue the conversation as this investigation progresses into Prince Andrew. Kinsey Schofield, Dave Ehrenberg, thank you both so much. When we come back, we'll turn to Idaho. The families of the Idaho student murders case are fighting yet another battle, this one over victim compensation, and killer Kohberger is refusing to pay up.
An Amber Alert triggered by a deadly shooting and 2 girls taken by their father.
But did Dustin Durin shoot the mother of his children in self-defense?
The Amber Alert murder trial. Live coverage today on Court TV. This week,
covering the country's biggest trials before we bring you inside the courtroom. Plus, the most compelling true crime cases in our daily spotlight.
Opening statements with Julie Grant. Mornings at 8, 7 Central on Court TV.
Only when I hear the bell on my own, and I wake up and I see your name on my phone.
It was made from the roommate's phone, excuse me, and we're not going to divulge who made that call.
So they came here together. They eventually get into the same apartment together.
Is this your place?
Yeah.
Perfect. You know why we're here?
And I assume noise.
Noise, yeah.
Yeah.
And in the end, they died together.
Now, for what's tipping the scales, just when you thought Brian Kohberger couldn't sink any lower, he does. In what many are calling the final insult to the victims' families. Kohberger is fighting to pay any court-ordered compensation to relatives of the victims, like Ethan Chapin's parents, who spoke to NBC News recently about the plea deal and how the case has been hanging over the heads of so many.
I think our initial response was like an eye for an eye. But then we've spent a ton of time talking about it with prosecutors. And for us, we always felt like this was a better deal. I mean, he gets put away and there's no appeal system to it. And there were so many kids, including our own, that had been subpoenaed that no longer have this hanging over their heads. I mean, we just all get to go live our life.
So why the refusal to pay up? Well, in a court filing, Kohberger's attorneys say that he shouldn't have to pay because the families took GoFundMe money, adding that Kohberger can't pay anyways because he's locked up and not working. Kohberger reportedly owes about $300,000 in fines and restitution payments combined. So let's discuss. Let's bring back in our legal eagles, Rick Grundy and Matt Timpanek. Matt, I'll start with you. Your thoughts, please.
It's just a ridiculous assertion by Brian Kohberger. When restitution is ordered, that needs to be paid. So the argument that they accepted GoFundMe money is not going to fly with the court. I still don't know how he's going to eventually pay, but the fact that he's trying to get out of doing so is just not going to work for the court.
Definitely. Rick, your thoughts here, please.
I agree with everything Matt said, but, I'm going to throw a little blame on the prosecution. It set it up for a problem. This is a guy who, in his plea, he pleaded to save his own life. He showed no remorse for what he did. He had an opportunity to say something to those families. No, not gonna. The 2 days when it was announced and then when they actually did the plea were cold and shaking as to how this person presented himself. So then you put ties on him that allow him to torture this family a little bit more. So I think, just put him away. You have no other obligations. We need not hear from you ever again.
Oh, I like that. Rick. Yeah, these families do not deserve to experience any more mental anguish than they already have. Matt, let's talk about how insulting it is, how his lawyers argued in the brief, well, they got GoFundMe money. Well, like when they attacked the charity of all these wonderful people who care so much about those families and the losses they've experienced, to me, I thought that was just a really, really poor judgment by his lawyers. What do you say?
I just have to say they're trying to make any kind of argument that would satisfy the representation of their client so he doesn't file some bar complaint that wouldn't go anywhere. That's just kind of what it feels like. It's just throwing anything against the wall to see it will stick. And the problem is when you actually go to do this at a hearing, the judge is going to be like, are you guys sticking to this? And it puts them in a position to try to spin something else or to double down on it. But I just have to think his attorneys are throwing anything against the wall and be done with this representation once and for all.
Yes, Matt. Rick, we know that he's not going to be able to pay back this entire amount of money. It's just the reality. He's locked up. He's not working. However, inmates can make a little bit of money, can't they? Aren't there jobs within prisons that could be done potentially for him to pay something?
Yeah, absolutely. I can't speak to this particular prison system, but in those that I'm aware of, absolutely, they get jobs. They get paid a pittance, but it's a pittance that means something to them because it goes into their canteen to give them that little extra pleasures of prison life. In this situation, I think if I was the prosecution, I would just file in response that he's broken the plea deal and we're putting the death penalty back on the table.
Oh, I love that, Rick Grundy. Say it again for the people in the back. So they can do that. Let's back the truck up a minute. Legally, these prosecutors could do that if they wish.
I believe so. Certainly under my jurisdiction, we could. This was something you agreed to. You're not following through on it. I find your argument to be trivial, so cards are back on the table.
Let's go. Boy, I love that idea. Matt Timpanek, quickly, do you love it too?
I do. It'll be interesting to see how they do it in Idaho. Like in Florida, if it was made a condition of probation, they could absolutely violate his probation. And yeah, it could potentially, that argument could be made.
Right. Revoke him, potentially resentence him. Yeah. To be continued. We're out of time. Such great insight from our legal eagles, Matt Timpanek and Rick Grundy. Thank you both so much for coming on this morning. And thank you at home for being with us. Go get some more coffee. We're not going anywhere. If you like the episode, watch it again, share it. And when we come back, we'll go to New Hampshire for the murder trial of Dustin Duren.